I have seen a belief that there is a secret sauce, right? They have to know a tool that I don't know about in order to make my Facebook ads better than yours. Or, they have to have a contractor somewhere. And this contractor, you're going to pay them 10 grand and all your numbers will go up, right? There's if you don't know about, the secret setting in your Twitter ads manager that makes the thing go. None of this exists. This is all a farce. This is all made up to allow people to bill exorbitant consulting rates to tell you that maybe Google ads is not for you. Or maybe you should try Facebook ads or whatever. At the end of the day, a growth manager, a growth lead, a growth IC, whatever your role is, if it has the word growth in it, or sometimes even marketing, it's just they haven't given you the title yet. If you own a number, it is your responsibility to make sure that number goes in the direction you need it to go.
Welcome to Sorcery's podcast. I'm Molly O'Shea, the founder of Sorcery, a weekly top VC deals newsletter, highlighting the top GPs, founders, and deal announcements leading the next innovation cycle. Today, we have Nick Abouzeid, newly minted co-founder of Rivet, a corporate and personal tax prep firm. Rivet recently launched and raised their pre-seed led by XYZ Ventures alongside Shrug Capital and 40-plus execs from Ramp, Deal, Newfront, Vile, and more. Previously, Nick was a leader in growth at Ramp, the $5.8 billion corporate credit card company. This is a fun conversation, and I think you'll learn a lot about growth. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Nick. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, Molly. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the recent announcement of your fundraise and founding of Rivet. This was kind of a big deal. Your post on Twitter got around 400 likes, 90 comments, and over 174,000 views. That's got to feel pretty good to get that much recognition.
I got a lot of congratulations. We announced on Sunday it was the right time to announce. We were sort of ready to sort of unveil what we're working on. At the same time, nothing's happened yet. I'll take the congratulations on April 16th when tax season is over. Then I will feel like we've done what we need to do. But for the time being, it feels good to sort of be able to talk about it publicly.
So maybe we just even start from the beginning and how it came back to Rivet. So how did you start your career and what was the path to thinking about founding your own company?
I've been lucky enough to work with founders sort of since day one. I started my career at Product Hunt. My first real job was working at my mom's restaurant, but my first tech job was at Product Hunt. Neve Drawer recruited me to work on Twitter. So we need a guy to do our Twitter. You seem to enjoy Twitter. Here, have fun. And I was really lucky to get to work with him. I was an intern. I eventually joined Product Hunt full time. I was the first hire after AngelList acquired Product Hunt. So I was the new face in the office, in the AngelList office, alongside the rest of the Product Hunt team. I was there for 2 years. I got to work across all of our social channels, our newsletter. I wrote that for a year. The AngelList newsletter, that was a really fun one to write, as well as some of our sort of like early SaaS platforms that we sold at Product Hunt. One was called Ship. I got to work on that. That was really fun. Neve and Ryan were sort of the beginnings of my career. I wouldn't be anywhere near where I am today without them. So I spent 2 years there. I eventually ended up in venture, working with Neve at his venture fund called Shrug Capital. I was there for Fund 2. Fund 2 was a $15 million fund. He's now on to Fund 4, which is very exciting. I was there for Fund 2. We invested in a handful of companies that I worked really closely with. What were the big ones? Superhuman was sort of the Fund 1 company that I got to spend the most time with. I'm still their number one referrer, knock on wood. Nobody's overtaken me in the last year or so. But Mainstreet was one of the companies that I ended up spending a lot of time with from Fund 2. It's an R&D credit sort of agency. They help founders get their R&D credits. As Fund 3 started, I joined Mainstreet as head of marketing. I was employee number 14. I ran our entire sort of demand gen funnel, comms, product marketing, anything to do with marketing or sort of demand gen was on me. We helped founders save a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, and it was a really fun time. Eventually, Eric from Ramp made a compelling offer to sort of join the team there. I loved my time at Ramp. I spent 2 years there. I ran 2 of our growth teams. One was a generalist marketing org, sort of growth marketing team of ICs focused on making numbers go up. Whatever number it was, we made it go up. We did everything from new channel validation to website CRO to, hey, there's this new tool. Somebody should try it. Nick, can somebody from your team pick it up? We worked on sort of stunt marketing as well. We did all the sort of New York City Times Square billboards. Those were a blast, as well as our lifecycle marketing team. So all of our comms from, call it sign up, all the way through activation, all the way through churn. Worked on that for a year. And now I'm at Rivet. It's day 50. I can tell you exactly what day it is. It's day 58. We incorporated on January 10th. It's day 58, so we're off to the races.
That's an amazing journey. Wow. Okay, so we have a lot to unpack there in terms of growth and marketing. If anything, that is going to be, if not is, the most important part of building businesses in this era of commoditization of SaaS tools, of like anything under the sun, right? In terms of your experience and your learning across your career with these different companies, with working in venture, what are the best practices that you've picked up and what are the secret sauces within growth?
So I think there is a belief that I have seen a belief that there is a secret sauce, right? They have to know a tool that I don't know about in order to make my Facebook ads better than yours, or they have to have a contractor somewhere, and this contractor, you're going to pay them 10 grand and all your numbers will go up, right? There's if you don't know about, the secret setting in your Twitter ads manager that makes the thing go. None of this exists. This is all a farce. This is all made up to allow people to bill exorbitant consulting rates to tell you that maybe Google ads is not for you. Or maybe you should try Facebook ads or whatever. At the end of the day, a growth manager, a growth lead, a growth IC, whatever your role is, if it has the word growth in it, or sometimes even marketing, it's just they haven't given you the title yet. If you own a number, it is your responsibility to make sure that number goes in the direction you need it to go. And I've done hundreds of interviews on behalf of both Mainstreet and Ramp. The thing that we screened for was, have you owned a number before, and can you verbalize what you did in order to make the number go up? And the best growth people we worked with all could verbalize exactly why the number went up. And they can walk you through exactly what they tried in order to make the number go up and the things that worked and the things that didn't. That was the hardest part. And I don't want anyone to think there's a secret sauce for any of this, right? Your number is website visitors. Great. Your number is, new users, new customers, whatever. There is no shortcut. There is no, just send an email campaign and it'll work. There is no shortcut. You have to do the hard work to make sure the number goes up. And even if you ship dozens of campaigns and have great ideas, you don't ship any of them, they don't land, you're still responsible for that number at the end of the day. So being stressed and being sort of on top of it is the job, for lack of a better, turn of phrase.
And how do you measure that internally, whether the team or individuals are finding the right channels and converting that? I'm thinking in terms of you're recruiting someone, you're looking to bring someone onto your team. Maybe you're an early stage company, maybe you just recently raised, and you want to start turning the dials on growth. How do you start validating whether or not this is the right talent to bring in to start moving the needle?
Yeah, and I'll just start off. You have to know what number you want to move first, right? It is not a good idea to hire a growth person if you don't know what number they're going to move. And if you hire a killer and they show up and they say, "What number I'm moving?" and you go, "Oh, just do growth stuff. Just do things that look like growth. We'll figure it out later." They're going to lose their mind. You need to give them the number that they need to move, and it's best if that number is not a number that they can change in a spreadsheet. It's a number that exists in a dashboard. It's something that is undeniably the number that it is: revenue, customer count, website visitors, what have you. The closer it is to the true, North Star of the business, even better. Growth people make numbers go up. That does not mean they're immune to making the number go up and not actually having the impact you want it to have. Oh yeah, your web traffic's up. Well, it's all terrible traffic, didn't convert, but hey, I made the number go up, right? You have to give them a real number that matters to the business. Every quarter at Ramp, we would pick our goals, right? And every person on the team owned a single number. It's very difficult when multiple people own the same number. It's very difficult when one person is owning multiple numbers, and it happened more often than I'd like, but it did happen. Um, if you make one person responsible for one number and that one number is in a vacuum by itself, not touching anything else, it's very clear if they're doing their job or not. It's very clear if the things that you're doing are working or not. Every person on the team had to build a sort of proposal, book of work on what they wanted to work on for that quarter. Every idea, strategy, improvement, test had to be impact weighted. So you take what happens if it's going to succeed. So let's say, it's going to lift conversion by 10%. You assign a probability to that number. So let's say I think that experiment has a 20% chance of success. So the weight of this experiment is going to lift our conversion by 2%. Cool. You have to then do that for every idea that you have. We have 30 ideas. Let's do it for all of them. It's going to take a half day. When you sum up all those expected weights, you end up with the value of all the experiments you're going to ship for the quarter. And it's very difficult to ship all of those and then miss your number, right? If you ship all of them and the sum of those weights equals way more than your goal, we aimed for 2x, it was very difficult to miss goal as long as you did what you said you were going to do. The biggest misses that I ever had on my team, and I was responsible for some of them, so I'm not going to pretend to, somebody else, was when we either didn't ship all the stuff that we said we were going to ship and just didn't have enough shots on goal in order to sort of get the numbers that we needed to. Or our probability weighting was way off. And that was actually the much rarer case. We usually actually overestimated failure. It's really just about shipping the things you said you were going to ship and making sure that you followed through and reported out what happened. It sounds very straightforward when you say it. There is no secret sauce. You just have to do the stuff you're going to say you're going to do every quarter. And if the numbers don't go up, you're ultimately responsible, right? You can't farm it out. You can't say, oh, well, the market's down. Seasonality. That was my favorite thing. Oh, why'd the number go down? Seasonality. Oh, really? Okay, let's go back a year. Let's go check. It actually went up last, April or whatever. What do you mean seasonality? Oh, well, and then you quickly realize they just don't know why the number didn't go up. So that's fortunately follow through there's no substitute for it.
Yeah, accountability in building, especially in startups, is a real factor, and there are ways to measure that and track that. It's hard to find, it's hard to hide in excuses when you have numbers and measurements that you're tracking. Within all of the different channels and platforms and ideas and creative strategies that you have tried throughout your career, I'm just curious, was there any specific point in time, maybe a phase where one specific strategy just outperformed the other ones, where you guys you had that unlock where you then all of a sudden hit a hockey stick curve and you were able to kind of take off? And was that strategy related? Was it product related? Was it wording? What was that process like?
I'll tell a story about someone on the team that I worked with. His name is Yash. I don't know if he'll like that I'm telling this story. I think he will. So we owned the Ramp website for a little bit. We worked on it, hey, let's make the conversion go up over time. And we had broad goals to hit, and they were fairly large goals. I'm not sure how we're going to hit it this quarter kind of goals. Let's do our best. So Friday afternoon, and I get this random Slack message pops up. Hey, Nick, I want to test the button on the homepage. The button on the Ramp homepage used to say get Ramp for free. That was the button. That was the button. Josh said, I want to test the button. And we already tested the headline and the header 2 and we already tested a lot of the stuff on the homepage as well. And I assumed wrongfully, now I know wrongfully, that whoever had built the website or sort of written that language before had already tested it. And I said, Yash, get Ramp for free makes a lot of sense. First principles, it sounds like the right thing to say. It seems like the, most actionable, it's packed with value props. It made sense to me. Somebody who's worked in marketing, that looks like a good button to me. I wouldn't have changed it. And he's like, yeah, we have room in the testing calendar. It'll take me 20 minutes to set up the test. We'll probably get signal by next week. I don't have anything else. Do you mind? And I was like, sure. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. Didn't really think much of it. Monday rolls around, opening up our testing suite. There's a winning variant on the homepage by a pretty big percentage. That's really interesting. it was big enough that it, helped us hit our goals by like over half in like that one little test. And
Wow.
I said, "Hey, Josh, I think your test might have won." He goes, "No way." I was like, "Go look at it." We let it run for another week to just make sure the results were actually right. They stayed basically the same. Now it says get started everywhere on the homepage. Why does get started perform better than get ran for free? I can't tell you. People are subconsciously weird. People don't make logical decisions, but it worked. And since then, we make sure to test. One, we tested all the buttons on the whole site, but two, we stopped giving up on what we called, the sexy solution. Oh, the super sophisticated. I called them like level 2 experiments. Like, it's not just a button test. It's not just swapping out the homepage for new design, but it'd be like, let's create a whole new onboarding flow from scratch. That's a level 2 idea. It's taking a ton of effort, a ton of resources to ship it, let alone actually make sure it works. We started to focus a lot more on level 0 tests. I'm like, hey, has anybody tested the color yet on this thing? Okay, let's try that. Has anybody tried a new homepage layout? That might be like a level 1 test, take a couple weeks to get going. Let's try that. Has anyone tried, just using the template that worked on one of these pages on the other pages? No one's tried that yet. Let's give that a shot. And you realize there's just so much level 0 stuff, even for a company with a very effective website and the conversion was going up month over month. I even when things are going well, I think people miss the level 0 stuff. It's more fun to work on a new onboarding flow for 6 months and promise people that it's going to lift conversion. Maybe it will, than it is to do the stuff that's, not as fun, definitely not as interesting, definitely not as fun to talk about in an interview, but it works. And it works if you do it at scale and you're, track results correctly and you're, intellectually, honest about the outcomes. So yeah, there's no bonus points for sexy. There's only bonus points for hitting your number. If you get your number by changing the button text, great. That's awesome. We should be really proud of that. We should celebrate that. We shouldn't just shy away from it because it doesn't look good on a Twitter storm.
I love that. I mean, I think that's honest, right? Like, a lot of people can get distracted by creating new campaigns and creating all these fancy promotional tactics, whereas it might just be a button. And now everyone's going to change their buttons to get started.
Me too. It works, right? Like it certainly wasn't our idea. I think we saw it on the Amex website. Like, oh yeah, it says get started there. Let's try that. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no bonus points for something new and interesting. For what it's worth, we also did some of the cool stuff, right? That people talk about in interviews. I'm a big Mutiny fan. It's an amazing tool. It's mutinyhq.com. I hope they get some business out of this. It lets you personalize a website in real time as it loads based on your IP address. So your IP address is associated with a venture-backed company. Great, we're going to flash a bunch of logos on the homepage. There are other venture-backed companies. You're a healthcare practice. Let's flash a bunch of healthcare practice logos. That kind of stuff exists. It's certainly effective, but unless you're at such a big scale, test your buttons first, right? Like, that's a very expensive engagement. Take some time to implement. It's, focus on the buttons. The buttons are already there and don't cost anything to test.
To transition over to back to Rivet. So you were working on growth at Ramp. What were your biggest learnings from there, and how did that translate into this idea to start your own company?
I loved my time there. The people are top tier, bar none, the best I've ever worked with. And I don't just say that lightly, right? It's easy to say that. I joined as a sort of, senior IC, right? I didn't join to run a team. I didn't join to manage anything. And part of the power of how Ramp promotes and scales their team is they promote, they don't hire in. At least that was my experience. And everybody that I worked with had done the job before, right? The AEs that we hired were oftentimes senior AEs at other companies. I was a head of marketing. I joined as an individual contributor. And that level of honesty about, hey, look, this is what I know I can crush for Ramp today versus this is a stretch hire, we're going to give them a shot, meant that we had amazing people both at the top running orgs. Jeff is an amazing product leader. I was lucky to get to work with him. All the way through, the people on the team that could be managers or more senior at other companies. we had an amazingly deep bench, and it showed, right? The quality of the work, the quality of discussions, in the sort of problems that people would surface from the bottom up. Rivet was started by accident, for what it's worth. So Rivet was a private practice, a tax prep practice. Kyle, my co-founder at Rivet, he and I met at Mainstreet. He spent 6 years as an auditor at the IRS, doing audits around the Bay Area and San Francisco. He was the youngest auditor on the West Coast when he joined. So I make this joke in front of clients. No one's ever laughed. I say he's like Doogie Howser of tax prep, because he was like, he looked adolescent, and he's showing up to do your audit. 9 times out of 10, nobody knows who Doogie Howser is, which is deeply sad for me. We met at Mainstreet. We both left. And when people would ask for a tax prep referral, I would just send them to Kyle. Nice guy, does good work. He's done my taxes for years. He's done a great job. You can go meet Kyle, and he would do them on sort of nights and weekends when he had time. Last season, he worked with over 100 people. He worked with Series B companies handling their entire sort of corporate tax prep. He worked with the founders. He worked with over 100 clients. 80% of those were individuals, but a handful of businesses as well. And we built little cute Notion dashboards for every client, and we'd set up a Slack Connect channel. People had questions, and it was simple, but people really loved it. Accounting firms today are not responsive. They aren't proactive. They don't care about your business. For unfortunately, they're oftentimes run by mostly men who are ready to retire. It's very rare that firms are eager for business today. It's oftentimes harder. It's very difficult to get a referral to a great firm. And you'll notice this when people say, oh yeah, we'll work with you, but do not send us referrals. We're too busy, or we don't have time for you, or we only work with companies of a certain size, or, oh, we don't do LLCs. We only do C Corps. People built their practices to optimize for their own time and their own profit, not for scale. And so, this tax season was coming around the corner, and we got to the point where we knew this kind of had to be a full-time thing if we were going to do it for real and sort of give this the respect that it deserved. This isn't just like a Chrome extension that you ship for fun and sort of like hope it works. And if it doesn't, whatever. We're asking for people's social security numbers and their W-2s and their 1099s, and I need your K-1s, and you're trusting me with your tax refund. It's a big thing to trust somebody with, especially if it's for your startup where you've raised money. And so to give this sort of the time it deserved to do it right, we've both been on our notice, and we're off to the races as of, call it January 10th. That was sort of the first day.
Again, congratulations with that and taking the leap over to making it your full time. Given that you have been working in venture-backed businesses, now you're taking over a tax prep firm. What gave you the conviction to A, build this as a scalable business, and B, receive funding from the venture side, and not only build a business, but now you're building a venture scalable business. So this is another kind of ballpark, and I don't mean to put pressure on you, but there are certain expectations that come with that kind of capital.
Yep. No, I mean, look, we wouldn't have raised money if we did not think we could go public in 10, 12, 15 years, right? People have to return their funds. This is not for fun. This is not a hobby, right? We know that. We wouldn't have raised money if we didn't think that sort of kind of outcome was possible. There was one world where we didn't raise any venture and sort of skewed all the, inbound emails and, no, we don't need a Twitter thread. It's okay. We'll just build a tax prep firm. And we certainly could, right? Kyle was already running a tax prep firm that he started by himself, right? That was already happening. The amount of manual work and labor and just things that should not need to be done by somebody who is a, expensive professional, on a day-to-day basis for these clients was just gobstopping to me. I'm a personal example. My personal returns are a great example of a bad tax return. I get 35 K1s every year, both from my time in venture and my time at AngelList, and my time investing on AngelList and my time running syndicates on AngelList, right? Every single one of these investments spits off a K1 every year. K1 is 8 pages long or 6 pages long, and it requires Kyle every season to manually transcribe all the data from each of those K1s, even though they each have like $2 on them. Like we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. I'm definitely not there yet. We're talking about like $1,000 investment into an AngelList SPV, spits off this tax form every year that takes Kyle, 5 or 10 minutes. And when you get 35 of them every year, it takes Kyle 6 hours sitting in a coffee shop manually clicking back and forth between each of the forms to do the work correctly to file your taxes. And that's crazy to me. I said, hey, Kyle, how long did you spend doing this? He's like, oh, I spent, 5, 6, 7 hours or whatever just on your return. I was like, would you have liked the data as a CSV instead? Oh my God, I would have loved the data. You have it? I said, well, no, but that's the kind of thing we can build technology to solve, right? Rivet is a tax prep firm. There's no, we're not trying to sort of like change the category. People already know what these kinds of companies do. The point is that we're going to build things on the front end to make engaging with us more delightful and easy and straightforward and take less of your time. And we're going to build things for Kyle to make him more efficient. And I don't think we need to rebuild, the whole tax prep world from scratch to do that. We're very lucky to build on top of existing platforms. We use Drake for our sort of back end sort of tax prep. It actually builds the returns. The whole point is we can make how he engages that software way more effective and efficient over time. The other thing is, if you want to do that, you have to raise venture capital, right? You need time and engineers and salaries in order to build amazing software, both on the front end and the back end. And so that's why we decided to take the leap.
How did you decide to name it Rivet and not Kyle?
Weirdly enough, Rivet was a name that ChatGPT told me. No one's ever asked me this.
There you go.
I started telling it about like the ethos of the firm. We're punctual, we're exacting, we're dependable, right? If you don't know what a rivet is, it's the metal fastener that holds two pieces of metal together. If you've seen them on the side of like an airplane, they hold two pieces of metal together on like the outside of a Boeing. These days,
hopefully they do. Hopefully
they hold
the
these days together. They're not as good. But yes, that's what a rivet is. It holds two pieces of metal together. And we liked the name, and the domain was available, and off we went. The other name we almost picked was Roman, but there is another startup by that name that does not have the right connotations for this type of business, and so we skipped over that. We moved on to Rivet. I still own roman.tax, so if anybody wants that domain, let me know. But we almost did Roman, and we ended up with Rivet.
Well, I love Rivet. I think that was a great choice. It certainly is a good way to encapsulate strong taxes, In terms of working at startups before, you've probably laid out what your goals will be, the milestones that you want to achieve. You've had really good growth marketing experience. What are your long-term goals having worked in startups before?
I mean, I think the long-term goal of this is to build an amazing tax prep firm, right? Ernst & Young is who I look up to. It's not, there are a bunch of startup-focused tax prep firms. We are not building one. We are building a better tax prep firm. Just so happens that a lot of our sort of early customers happen to be startups. Ernst & Young is the goal. They do $30, $35 billion a year in revenue, billion dollars a year in revenue. Most of that is audit. We're only focused on tax, but still it's in the billions. There's the big four. There's four of these, along with hundreds, if not thousands, of smaller tax prep firms that are doing anywhere between $1 million a year and $100 million a year, right? This is a massively fragmented industry. It's largely owned by, accountants themselves who started their own firms and grew it slowly over, 2 decades and are ready to retire. Private equity firms are getting involved now to roll them up. That's really interesting to me. There's people talking about offshoring a lot of these sort of roles to overseas. The industry is changing really rapidly, and it's fun. It's fun to be able to build something that people need and want to build a relationship with it for a decade, right? When half my consults are, I've never worked with a tax prep firm before. I just sold my first company. I've never done this before, and I want to build a relationship with somebody for the next decade that can help me think through all these things. That's really fun. That's really cool. These are not just, here's my W-2s, here's my 1099s. See ya, bye. We're not TurboTax. That's not what we're building. Certainly something that people need. Is just not what we're doing. But it's really fun to get to build a relationship with people and just help them. Taxes are really scary. They've never been scary to me, but it can be scary for a lot of people, and it's fun to be able to sort of help people through that process.
How have you been able to gain their trust, gain new customers' trust in such a sensitive industry?
I like to think that I'm, funny and I have a nice face or whatever. But at the end of the day, right, these people's needs aren't being met by other firms, right? They're trying to engage with them. Somebody sent me an email chain, forwarded me an email chain before the consult. And they say, "Will you please respond to my emails, unlike this other firm?" And it had been them email. They got a warm introduction. It wasn't like they just cold emailed a partner. They got a warm introduction to the guy who owns the firm. Great. Okay, you'd think that that would be the next. Great, he will respond to your emails, whatever. They had a 15-minute get to know you. Great, we'll send you an engagement letter. 4.5 months of follow-ups of, hey, I'd like an engagement letter. I'd like to get started. No response. Hey, I really need to get started. Tax season is coming. Can you help me? No response. Hey, I deeply need help. We just sold my secondary. I'm ready to go. Can you help me? No response. Hey, do I need to sign an engagement letter? Do I need to put a deposit down? No response. That's who we're competing with. It's people who don't care or are too busy to care or whose bosses haven't incentivized them to care. That's who we're competing with. And so just by being there and answering your email and being responsible and available, it puts us ahead, which shouldn't be the case. I wish it wasn't, right? If it wasn't the case, we wouldn't be doing this, but it is, and so we are.
I guess that's a really good transition to go into who are your customers? Who are you looking to service and how are you attracting them? Before this, we started recording, you were talking about how you've been in back-to-back calls doing consultations. It's a wonderful kind of slug, but it is a lot of work. So you have a full pipeline of customers and people that are interested. Who are they? Who are you going after? And how have you started to engage them?
Yeah, so we work with everything from vanilla W-2 1099s. I'm just an employee at a company. I want somebody to be able to call in the off season for questions, all the way through call it like Series B and Series C companies with deeply sophisticated entities that all own parts of each other, and they need a $300,000 R&D credit done along with 35 state returns. Kyle is a machine. I'm very lucky to get to work with him. There will be many more tax preparers behind the curtain soon, we hope. But we work with anybody who is eager and ready to work with us and is responsive, right? Our best clients are the ones that answer our emails quickly when we need more information and have work for us to do. We picked either the best or the worst time to start this business is in the middle of tax prep season. Not entirely sure. I think we could have used a couple months to sort of like get ready for January, but we're off to the races nonetheless. And it's people who need help. Yeah, I love this question. I get this question a handful of times from actual clients, like, "Oh, who's your target customer?" Like, you're a client. I love that the industry has trained people to think that they need to be an accounting firm's target customer in order for them to be willing to help them. It's wild. Would you ask Kroger who your target customer is when you're going to buy groceries? No, you just go buy the groceries if you like the prices, right? And they don't look moldy. The we give everybody a price. We are definitely not the cheapest. I will never say that. If we are, I'd be surprised. We are definitely not the cheapest, but we like to hope that sort of the quality of care that we deliver is what people are looking for, and it makes sense for their sort of annual engagement. I don't think people would pay us money if they didn't have to file their taxes, right? This is a legally enforced engagement, right? They can't not do this a lot of the time. They have to do this, so it's really about who they choose to work with more than anything, and I hope they keep coming back year over year.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have customers, so that's for sure. So recently, you announced a partnership with On Deck. Are you going to be rolling out more partnerships going forward? Is there going to be one with YC?
Julian's been deeply supportive of Rivet from the beginning. Eric and Andrea have been as well. Eric worked at Product Hunt way back in the day. He was there before I was, right? So this is the Twitterati of people who are active on Twitter is very small. You get to know everybody over a decade of tweets. Despite your best efforts, everyone will get to know everyone. There's you can't avoid it. The On Deck members have deeply sophisticated taxes. They're overwhelmingly, they're people that have immigrated to the country or people that are living internationally. They are people who are starting companies or winding them down or selling them or merging. It's my most fun calls come from On Deck because a lot of their tax needs are not vanilla by any means. They're deeply sophisticated with, I pay taxes in the UK. I'm living in Tanzania. I'm moving to Spain. I'm going to do 3 months of digital nomading between Paris, London, and Amsterdam, and then I'm coming back to New York. How should I do my taxes? And you're like, oh wow, this is fun. Like this is interesting. You've got something here, and their needs aren't being met. Right? There are no personal tax prep firms that are eager to engage with this type of client. Why? They're more sophisticated and time consuming than sort of your easy, here's $1,000, I'll get you my tax returns and just sort of not have to think about it. And it's really fun to work with them. They always bring us fun problems, and the On Deck community has been great for sort of friends of mine that have gone through their sort of accelerator program, and we're really excited to be able to be helpful. As far as future partnerships, I don't have any planned. It was more a very lucky coincidence that I've known Julian for a while, and we were able to get that spun up. But maybe after tax day when we've got a little more time.
It seems like you have your hands full, so maybe this can all get managed, and then you can ramp up that pipeline once you have like 10 more Kyles.
If you are a tax preparer and look in search of your next thing, don't hesitate to shoot me a Twitter DM or an email. I'm always happy to chat. And for what it's worth, at this point, a lot of people are going on extension. People shouldn't be afraid of that. It's very normal. I go on extension every year. I get K1s that don't arrive until August. I have to go on extension. And so it's oftentimes the biggest lever a tax prep firm has in sort of making their people more productive is buy themselves 6 more months to do the work, right? And so instead of having to file by April, a lot of our clients are going on extension. We'll be done in October, which is just as fine in the IRS's eyes. There's no penalty or anything.
So a part of Sorcery, I get exposure to companies that are raising in different categories, and I track it over and over again. And it's pretty clear that Fintech has been in a cold spell. It's been very cold. There's not volume in companies that are being announced and new deals that are happening. So from your perspective, having worked in Fintech for a while and now starting a new Fintech company, what was your experience being on the inside of that? Like, did you even feel it? Do you feel it in the market when you're talking to your friends that are founders or working at other Fintech companies? What's the big difference there?
The market is rewarding companies that have built a real business. There are a lot of Fintech companies that unfortunately never got there. I'm sure they went in with great ideals, that went in with, real plans to get there, but either something in the product didn't work or something on the way that they make revenue didn't work, and they explode, oftentimes spectacularly on the back end. Or they languish, you don't hear about them for 10 years, and then they, quietly get acquired. But, from where I was sitting at Ramp, the impacts we had for businesses were real, right? Tens of millions of dollars saved, tens of millions of dollars in cash back unlocked, all of the time-saving features that the finance teams loved that picked Ramp over, one of the handful of competitors that would pop up, meant that there was a real business being built. Ramp Plus just came out. Just came out. It feels like just yesterday. It's a year ago now, probably. But it was a paid platform. A handful of features that are gated off, that are paid, no longer free, and the clients that are using them and paying for them and engaging with them deeply love them. They solve real need for them. These are oftentimes many thousands of dollars a year engagements. People love them, and they solve a real need. Right? If your business does that, and you're able to make money at a big enough margin in order to sustain sort of the startup costs, then the market is going to be kind to you. If you grew really fast off the back of cheap venture debt and cheap venture equity, and it's unclear where the business goes from there, it's going to be a very painful couple of years ahead. So I'm not surprised that it's been tough, but for the people that have built a real business that wasn't just designed to raise money. It's been, now's the time to build.
Yeah, whether it's financial services, financial technology, moving money, something that has to do with banks, it is a regulated industry. Things take time. This is a very sensitive matter with money, whether it's calculating it, sending it around, deposits, that sort of thing. Or even, embedded fintech. That was, a huge trend and kind of like unearthing the trenches of the institutions and how long it takes to move money in between things. It takes time. It's very relationship based. It's very product based. There has to be a need there. So I think you have a good point with that, as well as trust.
And we're lucky that people trust Ramp today, right? It's an amazing platform. We're lucky that our early customers are trusting us, right? I have their social security numbers. It's in a protected database, but nonetheless we have them, right? It's a big ask, and we're lucky that people are sort of trusting us for this sort of first official tax season.
As we start to wrap up, I would love to know what kind of advice do you have for individuals who might be at larger companies or at startups who are getting the itch to pursue something full time and really make the leap to become a founder?
That's a good question. I Rivet would not be possible without the things I learned at Ramp, like the people and the culture and the way of working and the way of organizing work and planning out success looks like, which would not be possible. We wouldn't be a tenth as successful as we are. Work somewhere whose ideals and culture you want to replicate one day, right? If you work somewhere, you walk around the halls, you're like, I would never build a business like this. I would never want to work here if I didn't have to and need a paycheck and need health insurance. Um, there's probably somewhere better for you. I hope. I hope we are as successful as Ramp one day. I don't think we will be. I think it's a generational company. I hope. I hope. And you know, if you're not working somewhere whose culture you don't want to replicate, you should leave or look for somewhere where you can find that. As far as the decision to sort of make the leap, it's when it pulls you out of the org despite your best efforts, right? If leaving isn't deeply sad and you wish you could have done it later, but you literally couldn't have waited another week, you picked the wrong time. I put my notice in. We dragged it out. I spent as long as I could, but at a certain point I had to go. So wait as long as you can, and leave a good impact on the org as you leave. Don't if just cut and run when you're sort of marginally excited about an idea. Most people end up regretting it, at least that I've seen. So wait until the company, the idea, the opportunity literally like rips you out of your seat. Because in theory, you should be having enough fun and enjoy your coworkers enough not to want to leave.
Yeah, that's sound advice, and honestly, it's responsible too, right? Like, you are leaving back an organization and duties and work and relationships and bundle it up and put a bow on it. And unless like there are moral hazards, like leave it better than how you found it.
I hope I did at Ramp and everywhere else I've left. But yes, leave it better than yeah. Everything should be an improvement over time.
Well, thank you so much, Nick. It was a pleasure to have you on and learn more about what you're building with Rivet. I wish you the best of success and to build a multi-billion-dollar revenue generating company.
If all goes to plan, we'll get there. So I appreciate the time, Molly. Thank you.